A single missile strike on an oil tanker in the Persian Gulf triggered a chain of events that, within hours, brought missiles over Kuwait, explosions in Bahrain, and renewed fears of a wider regional war. Hello friends, welcome back to another episode from History Talk and Common Sense. For a brief moment, it looked as though the fighting had paused. The headlines spoke of ceasefires, diplomacy, and a chance to prevent a wider war in the Middle East. Then, in less than 24 hours, everything changed. It began in the waters of the Persian Gulf. According to U.S. Central Command, an oil tanker known as the MT Lexi was sailing toward Iran's Kark Island when American forces intervened. U.S. officials stated that the vessel ignored repeated warnings and that a Hellfire missile was used to disable its propulsion system. Washington described the operation as a defensive enforcement action. Tehran saw it very differently. Iranian officials immediately condemned the strike, arguing that it violated both international law and the ceasefire framework that had supposedly reduced tensions in the region. But the tanker was only the beginning. Soon afterward, U.S. forces launched another strike, this time targeting a telecommunications facility south of Qeshm Island. For Washington, the target was reportedly linked to military operations. For Iran, it was another attack on its sovereignty. And that is where the crisis entered a new phase. Think about it this way. When two rivals are already standing at the edge of confrontation, every action is judged not only by what happened, but by how it is interpreted. The United States believed it was enforcing security measures. Iran believed it was being attacked. Once those two narratives collide, escalation becomes much harder to stop. That night, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched what Iranian sources described as a coordinated response across multiple fronts. The first reports emerged from Bahrain. According to Iranian media, a commercial vessel linked to interests viewed as supportive of Washington was disabled near Bahraini waters. Almost simultaneously, attention shifted north toward Kuwait. Videos began circulating online showing missiles crossing the night sky as air defense systems attempted interceptions. One of the most widely shared clips showed two civilians watching the incoming projectiles before their vehicle struck a roadside barrier amid the confusion. Fortunately, reports indicated that neither suffered serious injuries. U.S. officials later stated that Iranian missiles failed to achieve their intended objectives. However, footage from Kuwait also appeared to show at least one interceptor missile falling back toward populated areas after an unsuccessful engagement. The incident quickly raised questions about the risks faced by civilians whenever missile exchanges occur over urban centers. Meanwhile, satellite imagery released the following day appeared to show damage at Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. Particularly notable was the destruction of a hangar reportedly used to house drones and military aircraft. Additional damage was also reported at Kuwait International Airport following a drone strike from what officials described as an unknown source. Fire crews battled flames for hours as images of the aftermath spread across social media. Then came Bahrain. Footage circulating online allegedly showed a missile striking a support facility connected to the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet. At the time of this recording, independent verification of those claims remains limited. Yet whether every reported strike achieved its objective is, in some ways, beside the point. The larger story is the message behind them. Iran was signaling that future confrontations would not remain confined to a single location. Any country hosting American military assets could find itself drawn into the consequences of a U.S.-Iran confrontation. That warning was reinforced by statements from the Revolutionary Guard, which declared that future responses would be stronger and more severe. And that brings us to the question now facing policymakers across the region. Was this simply another exchange in a long-running conflict? Or did the strikes reveal a new reality? One in which actions taken against Iran can trigger simultaneous responses across multiple countries? The answer matters far beyond the Middle East. Nearly a fifth of the world's seaborne oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Every missile launch, every damaged vessel, and every military escalation increases uncertainty in one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth. For now, both sides appear determined to defend their positions. But history shows that crises often become most dangerous when each side believes it is acting defensively. And that may be the real lesson from the events of the past 24 hours. One missile strike, one retaliation, and a region once again asking how close it is to a much larger conflict.
And there was no response. Turn your ship around. Evacuate your engine room immediately. And you see all these guys running out of there. Now, they're 5 miles away, and one shot into the engine room blew up the engine room. The ship stopped. They used tugboats, and then we landed on top of it. On top of everything else, we then land on top of it, and we took over the ship. We took over the cargo, took over the oil. It's a very profitable business. Who would have thought we were doing that? We're like pirates. We're sort of like pirates.
If this analysis helped you see the bigger picture, please like, share, and leave your thoughts below. That's the best way you can help this information reach more people. Let's decode the logic of power together.